The letter arrived on my 30th birthday, postmarked from a base I'd left 6 years ago, containing one sentence that stopped my heart. Captain Sarah Mitchell. You were right about everything. It was signed by Colonel James Hartfield, the man who'd ended my military career. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm standing in a Phoenix coffee shop at 5 a.m., wearing civilian clothes that still feel like a costume. I manage inventory for a medical supply company now. It's honest work. It's also nowhere near the sky. If you saw me, you'd see someone competent, organized, the kind of person who triple-checks orders and never misses deadlines. What you wouldn't see is the pilot who used to break through clouds at 15,000 feet, or the woman who lost everything for refusing to stay quiet. 10 years ago, I stood on the tarmac at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, fresh out of basic training, and swore an oath that made my father cry. Dad had been Air Force. So had his father. My younger sister, Emma, was 14 then. She filmed the whole ceremony on her phone and posted it with the caption, "My hero." I believed I could be one. I didn't know heroes get punished for telling the truth. Flight school was brutal and beautiful. I learned to trust instruments over instinct, to stay calm when the horizon disappeared, to land a plane when every nerve screamed pull up. I graduated third in my class. My first assignment was Travis Air Force Base in California, cargo transport. Not glamorous, but it mattered. Every supply run could mean the difference between mission success and failure. I was assigned to the 60th Air Mobility Wing, and my aircraft commander was Captain Derek Walsh, a 12-year veteran with a perfect safety record and a smile that made junior officers relax. That smile hid something dangerous. 3 months into my posting, I noticed discrepancies in our cargo manifests. Small things at first, weight calculations that didn't match. Fuel consumption reports that seemed off by fractional amounts. I mentioned it to Walsh during a pre-flight check. He laughed. "You're overthinking, Mitchell." Sometimes ground crew makes typos. "Sir, this is the third flight in a row." His smile faded. "Are you questioning my aircraft?" I hesitated. "No, sir, just confirming." "Then confirm less," he said quietly. "Focus on flying." I should have stopped there. I didn't. That night, I pulled previous flight logs from the base record system. I told myself I was being thorough. What I found made my stomach turn. Over 18 months, there were systematic inconsistencies. Weight declarations that didn't match actual cargo, fuel reports adjusted after landing. Encoded manifests that referenced supplies never officially logged. Someone was using military transport to move unauthorized cargo. I sat in my tiny base apartment at 2 a.m., staring at spreadsheets, and realized I was holding evidence of smuggling. The next morning, Walsh called me into his office with a gift, a recommendation for early promotion. "You're a strong pilot, Mitchell," he said warmly. "I'm putting you up for aircraft commander training ahead of schedule." I stared at the paperwork. This was what I'd worked for. "Thank you, sir," I managed. He leaned back. "You've got a future here. Don't waste it chasing ghosts in old paperwork." My blood went cold. He knew I'd been looking. I took the evidence to my direct supervisor, Major Linda Reeves. She listened carefully, reviewed the files, and then closed the folder. "Sarah, I need you to hear me clearly," she said. "Captain Walsh has an impeccable record. These discrepancies could be clerical errors, system glitches, anything. Ma'am, the pattern is—" "I know what patterns look like," she interrupted gently. "I also know what careers look like when junior officers make accusations they can't prove." She slid the folder back. "If you pursue this, you need ironclad evidence. And you need to be prepared for the consequences." I went back to the data and found something worse. Hidden in fuel requisition codes were timestamps that matched personal flight logs. Walsh had been making unauthorized stops during official missions. I cross-referenced GPS data with filed flight plans. 3 missions showed deviations of 40-60 nautical miles, each time near small civilian airfields in remote areas. He was landing off-record. I printed everything, made copies, and stored them in 3 separate locations. Then I requested a meeting with Colonel Hartfield, the base commander. Hartfield listened for 20 minutes without interrupting. When I finished, he asked one question: Do you understand what you're alleging? Yes, sir. I believe Captain Walsh is using military aircraft for smuggling operations. That's a court-martial accusation, Lieutenant. I know, sir. He studied me. You're putting your career in my hands. I'm putting the truth there, sir. He stood. I'll investigate personally. In the meantime, you're grounded pending review. Grounded felt like suffocation. For 2 weeks, I watched other pilots fly missions while I pushed papers in operations. Emma called from college in Austin. How's flying? Complicated, I said. That's not an answer. I wanted to tell her everything. Instead, I said, I might have made things harder than they needed to be. She laughed. You always do. You also always do the right thing. The investigation cleared Walsh completely. Hartfield called me into his office. His expression was stone. Lieutenant Mitchell, the Inspector General reviewed your claims. They found insufficient evidence of wrongdoing. My chest tightened. Sir, the flight data has alternative explanations. Weather deviations, GPS errors, nothing conclusive. Colonel, I have timestamps. You have suspicions, he said sharply. And in the process of pursuing them, you violated protocol by accessing classified flight records without authorization. The room tilted. I was the one facing charges. You broke chain of command. You accessed secure systems beyond your clearance. You made unsubstantiated allegations against a superior officer. I reported what I found through proper channels. After conducting an unauthorized investigation, Hartfield said. Lieutenant, your intentions may have been honest, but your methods were reckless. I was given 2 options: accept a general discharge under honorable conditions, or face a formal hearing that could result in a dishonorable discharge. Dad flew to California within 24 hours. He sat across from me in a diner off base, still wearing his retired officer's pride like a uniform. Tell me everything, he said, so I did. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Sarah, do you believe you saw what you saw? Yes. Then you did right. He took a breath. But the system doesn't always reward right. So I just. Give up, you protect your future, he said. Take the honorable discharge, live to fight another day. I took the discharge, but I kept the evidence. I moved to Phoenix and tried to build a civilian life. I got the supply company job, rented a small apartment, and tried not to look at the sky too much. Emma visited during winter break. She found me staring at my old flight jacket. You miss it, she said. Every single day. Then why did you leave? I wanted to explain honor duty, the impossible choice between silence and sacrifice. Instead, I said, because sometimes the right thing costs everything. 2 years later, Emma joined the Air Force. She called me from basic training, voice bright with exhaustion. I get it now. Why you loved it? Emma, you don't have to. I want to, she said firmly. You showed me what integrity looks like. I'm not wasting that. After she graduated, she was assigned to McChord Air Force Base in Washington, coincidentally, where Walsh had transferred. 6 months into Emma's posting, she called at 3 a.m. Sarah, I need to tell you something, but you have to promise not to freak out. My stomach dropped. What happened? Captain Walsh is my aircraft commander. I felt ice in my veins. Emma, wait. Listen, he's acting strange, secretive manifests, odd flight patterns. Sarah, I think you were right. Don't, I said immediately. Don't do what I did. I have to, no, I said firmly. You protect yourself, you stay quiet. Do you understand me? Silence. Emma, I understand, she said quietly. I understand that you're asking me to be less than you were. She investigated anyway. For 3 months, Emma documented everything Walsh did. She was smarter than I'd been. She stayed within regulations, worked with a trusted senior NCO, and built her case carefully. Then she submitted it through official Inspector General channels with full legal consultation, and nothing happened. Emma was reassigned to a desk job in logistics. She called me, voice shaking. They buried it again. I'm sorry, I whispered. He's still flying, Sarah. Whatever he's doing, he's still doing it. That night, I pulled out my old copies of the evidence. 6 years old, but still detailed. I made a decision that terrified me. I sent everything to a military journalist at the Air Force Times, anonymously. With a simple note, this pattern is still happening. Different base, same commander. I included Emma's new documentation alongside my old files. 2 weeks later, the article ran, "Questions raised about cargo transport oversight at multiple Air Force bases." It didn't name Walsh, but it named the pattern. The Air Force opened a multi-base investigation. 3 weeks later, Walsh was quietly reassigned to a ground position pending review. Emma called, crying, "Something's happening." "They're auditing everything." "Stay out of it," I warned. "Let them do their job." But Twist 19 changed everything. Walsh tried to run. He was arrested at a civilian airfield in Montana, attempting to board a private plane with $340,000 in cash and falsified documents. The investigation unraveled everything. Walsh had been smuggling high-value electronics and restricted components to civilian contractors who resold them overseas. He'd been doing it for 7 years. He'd used his position, his access, and the trust of junior officers to move millions in unauthorized cargo. And he'd nearly gotten away with it, twice. During the court-martial, Emma was called as a witness. She testified clearly, calmly, and completely. When she stepped down, the prosecutor nodded. "Your documentation was crucial, Lieutenant Mitchell." That same prosecutor called me, "Ms. Mitchell, we'd like you to testify about your original findings." I flew to Washington, wore my only professional suit, and walked into a military courtroom I'd never thought I'd see again. When they swore me in, my hands shook. I told the truth, all of it. When I finished, Walsh's defense attorney stood. "Ms. Mitchell, you were discharged from the Air Force." "Correct, yes. For violating protocol and making false accusations. For investigating what I believed was criminal activity." "Believed," he emphasized. "But couldn't prove." "At the time," I said clearly, "I couldn't prove it." "That doesn't mean it wasn't true." The prosecutor introduced my original evidence, now corroborated by the current investigation. Walsh was convicted on 14 counts of theft, smuggling, and conduct unbecoming. He was sentenced to 12 years in military prison and a dishonorable discharge. After the verdict, Colonel Hartfield approached me in the hallway. He looked older, tired. "Lieutenant Ms. Mitchell," he corrected, "I owe you an apology." I waited. "I should have believed you." "I should have dug deeper." He paused. "I let politics and appearances override evidence." "Why didn't you?" I asked. "Because Walsh had powerful friends." "Because I convinced myself you were inexperienced and overzealous." He met my eyes. "I was wrong, and you paid the price." He handed me an envelope. "What is this?" "A formal recommendation for reinstatement with full rank restoration and back pay consideration." My breath caught. "The Secretary of the Air Force authorized a review of your discharge. Given the circumstances and subsequent vindication of your claims, you're eligible to return." I stared at the envelope. "You were right about everything," he said. "That's what my letter says." I didn't decide immediately. I went home to Phoenix and sat with the possibility. Emma flew down to visit. We sat on my apartment balcony, watching the sunset. "Are you going back?" she asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "I lost 6 years. I built a different life." "A life you chose," Emma said. "Or a life you settled for," I looked at her. "What would you do?" She smiled. I'd remember why I put on the uniform in the first place. 3 weeks later, I reported to Randolph Air Force Base in Texas for reinstatement processing. They issued new uniforms, updated my records, assigned me to a refresher training program. Standing in that uniform again felt like coming home and meeting a stranger at the same time. My flight instructor was a Major Chen who'd read about the case. "Welcome back, Captain Mitchell," she said. "Captain, your promotion went through 6 years ago. You just weren't here to receive it." My first flight back was everything I'd forgotten and everything I'd remembered. The pre-flight check, the engine roar, the moment wheels left ground. At 8,000 feet, Major Chen said through the headset, "You look comfortable up here." "I am," I realized. "Good. Because the Air Force needs pilots who won't look away." After we landed, Dad was waiting on the tarmac. He saluted, something he'd never done when I was active duty before. I saluted back and he grinned. "Welcome home, Captain." 6 months later, I was reassigned as an aircraft commander. Emma and I served on different bases but talked weekly. She'd been promoted to first lieutenant and was thriving. You taught me something, she said during one call. What's that? That protecting the mission sometimes means protecting it from the people inside it. One afternoon, my new commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos, called me into her office. Captain Mitchell, I'm assigning you to a new role. Ma'am, flight safety and ethics training. You'll be developing curriculum and training junior officers on reporting procedures and integrity standards. I blinked. Ma'am, I'm not sure I'm qualified. You're exactly qualified, she said. You know what it costs to do the right thing. Teach them how to do it smarter. My first class had 30 junior officers. I stood at the front and said, "My name is Captain Sarah Mitchell. 6 years ago, I was discharged for trying to report a crime. I'm here to make sure that doesn't happen to you." I taught them documentation, chain of command, legal protection, how to build cases that couldn't be dismissed. But more than that, I taught them this: integrity without wisdom is martyrdom. Your job is to protect the mission and protect yourself. Both matter. After class, a young lieutenant approached. "Ma'am, what if doing right means losing everything?" "Then you decide what everything really means," I said. "And you make sure you're not alone when you do it." A year later, the Air Force implemented new whistleblower protections and oversight procedures, partly based on recommendations from the Walsh investigation. Emma called, laughing, "Sarah, they're literally teaching your case in ethics courses at the academy. That's terrifying." "That's legacy," she corrected. The following month, I received an invitation to speak at the Air Force Academy graduation. I stood before 1,000 cadets and told them the truth. Service will test you. You'll face moments where doing right feels impossible, where the system seems designed to punish honesty. I paused. Do it anyway, but do it smart. Document everything. Find allies. Use the protections that exist now because people before you paid for them. I looked across the crowd. Your integrity is your duty, but your wisdom is your weapon. Use both. The applause was long and loud. Afterward, a cadet approached, a young woman with nervous hands. "Ma'am, I want to be a pilot." "Then be one," I said. "But what if I'm not strong enough?" I smiled. Strength isn't about carrying everything alone. It's about knowing when to ask for help and when to stand firm. You'll learn the difference. That night, I sat in my base quarters and wrote in my journal something I'd started doing again. The cost of truth was 6 years. The cost of silence would have been forever. I added one more line: justice delayed is still justice. And every voice that speaks up makes the next one louder. 3 years after my reinstatement, Emma made captain. Dad flew to her promotion ceremony, and we stood together as they pinned on her new rank. Afterward, Emma hugged me tight. "Thank you for showing me what worth fighting for looks like." "You did that yourself," I said. "No," she said firmly. "I watched you lose everything and still believe the fight mattered." That's what I'm carrying forward. I'm 36 now. I've logged over 2,000 flight hours since coming back. I still teach ethics courses. I still remember what it cost. But I also remember what I gained: proof that truth survives, that systems can change, that one person speaking up can echo for years. And every time a junior officer approaches me nervously, holding documentation of something wrong, I say the same thing: you're not alone. Let's do this right. Integrity isn't about being fearless, it's about being afraid and acting anyway. The system won't always protect you for doing right, but that doesn't make wrong acceptable. Real courage is speaking truth carefully, documenting thoroughly, and understanding that justice sometimes takes years. One voice alone can be silenced, but one voice with evidence, allies, and persistence can change everything. If it helped you even a little, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone. I'll see you in the next story.